Right there, folks. Today, just going to talk about a book I read. Actually, it's a book I read quite a long time ago. It's called Early Greek Philosophy, and it's by Jonathon, and it's about it's the collected fragments of the Greek philosophers, the pre-Socratic Greek philosophers. That is, the philosophers who came before Socrates, or who were contemporaneous with him, contemporaries of him, but whose views are, quote, pre-Socratic. They hold pre-Socratic notions. Incidentally, I'm not sure I like the idea of dividing Greek philosophy into pre-Socratic and post-Socratic, because it sort of implies, it gives Socrates too great a status. But anyway, I'll show you the book now. And that's a Penguin classic one. Well, it's a very interesting book, but the reason I bought it was because basically I'm an Epicurean. I like Epicurus and his philosophy, and his forerunner was Democritus. Also, Democritus believed in atomism, basically more or less invented the theory. But Democritus also had a lot to say morally, and in many respects, Epicurus echoes what Democritus says. I'll just give you a few. There's about 30 pages of Democritus's moral fragments. Some fantastic things. I'll read for you some now. Oh, and by the way, this is an important point. Democritus lived. When did he live? It was about 500 BC, so about 500 years before Jesus. In one fragment, Democritus says, "Happiness and unhappiness belong to the soul. Happiness does not dwell in herds, nor yet in gold. The soul is the dwelling place of the spirit." It's quite interesting because it actually references Matthew 6, verses 19 to 21, about store up riches in heaven, not on earth. It's funny, I always liked that verse from the Bible, but I always took it metaphorically. I knew Jesus meant literally storing up treasures in heaven, literally, but I always took it to be metaphorical, storing up non-physical treasures, i.e. treasures in your mind. And here Democritus, 500 years before, was saying the exact same thing as Jesus, but with my spin on it. Happiness does not dwell in herds, nor yet in gold. The soul is the dwelling place of the spirit. Another good one is, "Indulgence is the worst of all things with regard to the education of youth, for it is this which gives birth to the pleasures from which evil arises." Absolutely. You see this too often, particularly where I'm from. A lot of council estates, a lot of single mothers, a lot of other people, they just give in to what their kids want nowadays, and you see what happens to their kids. Good stuff. This is something which is very good as well. "Desire for money, if it's not limited by satiety, is far heavier than extreme poverty, for greater desires create greater needs." Very similar to Epicureanism, but also similar to a lot of other philosophies, Buddhism. So anyway, there's a hell of a lot of good stuff morally, a lot of interesting stuff in this book, just from Democritus only. But one that I thought was quite good, I really like. For me, it really resonates. I mean, a lot of this stuff in here resonates with me, but this one resonates a lot. Maybe you won't see why it resonates, but I'll give it a go anyway. Democritus says, "Voluntary labours make it easier to endure involuntary labours." Yeah. When I read that, it really... as I say, I read this book months and months ago. But when I read that, it really resonated with me. Yeah. The people who... Wow, just people who, for example, look after their parents when their parents are old and frail, or who don't have a problem with other obligations, or who bear it well, tend to be the same sorts of people who work in homeless shelters and do a lot of good charitable work. Not just giving money, lump sums of money, but actually who do a lot of good work. And you could say, well, that's because the people who do that are just special. They're so good. They're just so special. They're so wonderful. And they've got their Christian philosophy behind them. No, it's not. It's not. I think, and I think I agree with Sam Harris, that morality is trainable. We can train our moralities. We can become better morally. We can train and hone our moral instincts, just as we can train our ability to play guitar. We can become better guitar players. You know, the people who do involuntary labours, who help out their neighbours, who work in homeless shelters, you know, who get nothing from it but who do it, they tend to be the people who best bear the involuntary labours, i.e. looking after your senile parents. Not because they're such wonderful people, but because in doing those involuntary labours, the involuntary labours become easier to bear. It becomes more normal, it becomes more bearable, and it becomes less begrudging. It's not like I'm living for myself and now my parents are senile and God, I've got to look after them. No, I'm not judging people who don't look after their parents when their parents are senile, by the way, because I might very well pack my mum off to an old folks home. Oh, sorry about that. Got a bit of a cold going on here. I'm not judging, please, I'm not judging, I'm not judging. I know it's a bloody difficult situation. I'm just saying that we could argue that, morally at least, that's an involuntary labour. You know, you have to look after your parents. They give their lives looking after you. They gave the best years of their life looking after you. Again, I'm not judging, please, Jesus, I'm not judging, but they gave their best years for you, and you can't give them your best years for them when they revert to childhood. Dribbling and shitting their pants and stuff. Well, the people who do look after their parents tend to be the ones for whom voluntary labours are more normal, the ones who are more used to voluntary labour. So that sentence, that aphorism, voluntary labours make involuntary labours easy to endure, that really resonates with me a lot. But anyway, this book's got a lot of great stuff in it, whether it's Democritus, which is a fairly fat section, whether you're interested in moral philosophy or you're an Epicurean or you actually want to see some interesting parallels with Jesus, half a millennium before Jesus even shot onto the scene, by the way. Bosh, it's in here. Bosh? I know. But also there's a lot of other interesting stuff. If you like philosophy and the history of philosophy and the development of thought, I mean, it goes through all of them, you know. Thales, Pythagoras, Alcmaeon, Xenophanes, Heraclitus, Zeno, Empedocles, Anaxagoras, Leucius, Diogenes of Apollonia, and there's loads in here. There's 22. It's a fairly fat book, as you can see, and it's very readable. But yeah, just for Democritus alone, we've got some great moral philosophy. So yeah, pick this book up, and in it.